Hello everyone, welcome to another IT Career Talk with Professionals, and today I have an Assistant Vice President to Cloud Solutions Architect. My guest today is John Homer Alvero. Hello John.
Hello, Rafi, and to all your viewers, good evening, good day, wherever you are
Right.
around the world.
So John, you have a very unique title and you don't see that very often. What is an Assistant Vice President dash or for Cloud Solutions Architect?
Well, the AVP is just just a rank within the organization, right? But the role is more on cloud architecture,
Mm,
right? So I guide the company or help the company reach its cloud goals, right? I align those cloud goals with the team that I handle, right? So I make sure that the different teams in the company are in the same page in terms of achieving goals. My team also, we have our own goal. I have to make sure that those are all aligned. So apart from that is apart from being an architect.
right.
As an architect, I make sure that the products and the services that we build is highly available. It can handle the required number of users or the required number of load, right? So again, still being aligned with the goals of the company.
Right, right. And you mentioned this that the AVP is more like a rank. So does this mean that there is a VP dash Cloud Solutions Architect, and is there like even below a VP? What's below Assistant VP? No, parang like maybe a secretarial dash Cloud Solutions Architect. Just for clarification, no? Clarification.
That's a good question. Yes, there's indeed cloud architects in the different levels of the organization. Yes, there is. And to answer your question, there is no secretary cloud architect.
Right, right. Cool. Um, what are the skills that you need to possess to have to become an AVP? Um, both either with a cloud architect and also just being an AVP itself.
So it's really about uh, architecture,
Mm-hmm.
knowing systems, your background in the different domains in IT, from network systems, also applications, storage, databases, including security, right? So, as an architect, you have to be a well-rounded professional, meaning you have knowledge in all of those domains, because you cannot architect something when your domain is specific to a particular one. Right? So you have to be well-rounded. Uh, your experience will definitely play a big part in in delivering projects, in carrying out your job or your role.
As a manager that you mentioned, no, and but at the same time having that domain expertise and wide expertise, does this mean that you still code or you still do the deployment of the architecture? And if so, do you do any of scripting or do you already like pass this to your team?
Yeah, definitely. I still code, and without coding and without us actually deploying something and creating our own, right? This will be a boring job, and you know that we're in the same domain, right? So we always find a way somehow for
Right.
us to do something, to tinker on, to play around, to learn, to code,
Mm-mm-mm.
right? So we as IT professionals, we really thrive on uh, coding, right? Scripting
Right.
or deploying,
And is
right?
there particular scripting that you are preferred, no? Parang for example, are you using CDK, Terraform, or like Bash or script? What's your preference lang? Just to
Yeah, I
ask.
do a lot of bash scripting,
Mm.
right? So don't bash me on that. I was born in the age where these kinds of things were common,
Mm-mm.
right? So I do a lot of bash scripting and also Puppet scripting for automating uh, infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
or operating systems, right? So yeah.
Right. Cool, cool. Now just to have an idea of what languages are still very relevant right now, even at AVP level. As a manager, you handle a lot of people. How would you describe your management style? Ano ba to? Sir John? Parang Sir John. Ganun. Oo.
No, definitely not. So I try to be informal to the people, and also that makes me approachable as much as possible to the people, right? And I try to let them do things, right? Make them allow them to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. So there's a great deal of autonomy that I give to the people, right? And there's really nothing wrong about making mistakes. It's just that you just have to own it, whatever that is, and make it right and learn from those mistakes. Um, there's really no mistake, as they say, right? There's only learning.
Right, right. No. How do you, I would say, cross-check to make sure na, that their mistakes are not super bad. Like, kasi if we also give full autonomy or parang bahala na si Batman, baka too much naman, no? How do you deal with that, boundaries?
Well, many of the mistakes kasi, Rafa, no, are reversible,
Mm, mm,
right? I
mm.
mean, siguro a great majority of the mistakes are reversible. So that's fine.
Right.
And then aside from that, if you build something, a platform, a a mechanism so that these mistakes are are happening less,
Mm, mm, mm.
right? So in AWS we call that guardrails, right?
Right,
So if you
right.
build those guardrails, those kind of mistakes, yung mga grave mistakes, it can be avoided, right? So ganun naman yung approach natin in cloud and AWS. We don't set up barriers, but we set up guardrails so that the engineers can perform their jobs.
Right. No? And again, to our audience, these are something that we want to share, no? So it's not barriers, but guardrails. So that if you make a mistake, ito nga sabi ni Sir John, or ni John, reversible. So that's a very good practice in a company, I would say. How do you hire? I would assume at your level, you have some hiring influence, no? Uh, what are the criteria when you're looking at hiring? Do you look at certification? Do you look at experience? Do you look at magaling ba sila mag-English pag nag-interview?
Mhm. So for me, there's really different approaches or different techniques in hiring.
Mhm.
That just depends on the level or the role of the hire that you are doing, right?
Right.
But the main the main thing that I do is really look at the character,
Mm.
right? And the attitude of the person. there's a certain baseline of skill sets that's needed for a particular role, right? And that baseline of skill sets, depende na yon kung ano yung level of that role. But there's a certain level of baseline skill sets, and then the most important thing talaga is the character, the attitude. So I look for uh, quite a few. One is curiosity, right? So in our field, very important talaga yung curiosity, right? And the other one is persistence, right? So someone who doesn't give up right away, right? So in many cases kasi in our field, we encounter a lot of challenges. Doesn't work this way, doesn't work that way, right? So somebody in this role who will succeed must have a high level talaga of persistence as a character,
Right,
right?
right. Siguro one of other questions I want to ask is right now, um, a lot of companies are doing remote working or hybrid working. How do you feel about remote working? Is this for you effective, or how do you generally play around the remote working?
That's a good question. It's very apt for our circumstances right now, right? So before the pandemic, we really thought that I wish that the company can give us more time at home. I wish the company can provide more flexibility,
Wish
work,
granted.
right? And then it happened, right?
Right.
It happened.
Uh-uh.
It happened, right? And then what I heard from people is that they want to go back to work, right? And a number of people also they want to work from home, right? So I guess there is a balance, or there is a sweet spot wherein there's a certain number of days that you can work from home. There's a certain number of days where you can work from the physical location, from your office, right? But definitely, uh, each individual is different, right? So iba-iba. So I guess the key thing is being for companies to be able to provide flexibility depending on the circumstances of each engineer or each person, right? Kasi what I realized is that iba-iba yung circumstances ng tao,
Right, right.
right? Yours and mine are different. Yung iba, um, nag-aalaga ng baby, for example, and it's easier for them to work from home. And even more productive working from home, right? I guess many companies or many organizations have done this study. Saan ba talaga productive yung mga tao, right? And ako personally, what I realized is when you're working from home, it's very difficult to draw the line between work and personal, right? So we end up working more and more
Right.
for the organization, for the company, right? So that's a plus. That's a plus for the organization, right? But for the individual, for the engineer, probably not, right? Because the more you do that, you get burnt out, right? So probably hindi lang natin notice ilang oras na pala tayong nasa desk natin, right? and we do that for an extended number of days. And then before we know it, we wanna we wanna resign na because ano ba tong company na to, ang daming trabaho, right?
Right,
So
right, right.
so you really have to be self-conscious. When is your work hours? Even if you're working from home, when is your personal time?
Mhm.
You really have to work it out.
Right. Do you practice any of these like Pomodoro or like like putting an alarm na parang tururut, tapos na yung day, parang ganyan.
Um, to tell you honestly, I don't do any of that.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yung ano, yung alarm. Um, so alam mo naman, 'di ba, yung ano, yung uh, ina-advocate ni paring Jeff natin ano.
Mm-mm.
Sabi niya ano, work-life integration daw,
Yes,
not
integration.
work-life balance ano. So we need to find a way, regardless of what time it is, we need to find a way for our work and our personal life coexist.
Right, right.
Right? So kasi it's really hard to put that box, put that boundary, right?
Right, right.
What if your family member needs you for a very important matter, pero it's office hours, right?
Mm-mm.
Um, so mahirap, you can't do that, right? You can't tell your family, teka muna kasi right? So somehow you need to find a way for to make that work life integration work for you.
Right,
Of
right.
course, I guess, to tell you honestly, I guess depends rin sa nature ng work mo ano.
Mm-mm.
Um, so there are some roles or jobs that would allow that would allow you to do that, right? And
Right,
there are
right.
some roles na talagang impossible,
Mm-mm.
right? So if you are one of those lucky people who would be allowed or who have the opportunity to do that work-life integration, right? Good for you.
Right. I think again, this is my personal opinion, audience. No, I think the more mature you get or the more tenure you get, the more you would have work life integration. No? Maybe when you're younger, kasi I think na it's more like work life balance because during work you really have to concentrate on work kasi you're still being mentored, you're still it's still there's still a time factor that's important. But as you get more skilled, tenured, you'll be able to move away or at least bridge that into that work-life integration.
You're absolutely right. I agree 100%.
Right. So John, now that you are aiming for this or you have this work-life integration, is there anything that you're currently passionate about? Whether it be in work or in life in general, no?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm always passionate about technology. I'm always passionate about cloud, passionate about new things.
Mhm.
I like to do proof of concepts of my own, right?
Right.
Uh, Recently, I've been doing this IoT personal project. Here, I'm doing IoT here at home.
Right.
So I've been busy with those things, right? And aside from achieving something, the process of learning, right?
Mhm.
The process of getting into that goal really is one of the most exciting things of our field,
Right.
right?
Speaking about IoT, no, and since we both know na medyo AWS centric ako, have you tried this Core 2, the AWS IoT kit?
No, no.
No, but you might want to check it out, no?
Ano ba yan? What is that?
It's you can buy it at M5 Stack. No? It's an IoT kit where I actually haven't fully explored, no? But I believe there's already a display, some sensors. Parang imagine this is like their Raspberry Pi or Arduino equivalent. No?
I
So
see.
you might wanna check it out, no? Since nagsabi mo IoT.
All
Anyway,
right. Great to know. Thank you.
right. And it's not that expensive. Now I believe this is like maybe just $50. Ang shipping lang yung ano, no? Kasi you have to ship it from Singapore.
I see.
Right.
Ako personally, I have some ESP-based IoT devices.
Mm-mm.
I flash it with Tasmota firmware, and then I have a Raspberry Pi somewhere in the network where I host my MQTT service, and then I also have a couple of IoT devices from deadbolts, lights. What else? Gardening,
Right.
water irrigation for the garden, right?
Wow, super automated siguro yung house nyo and
Right.
everything.
I guess the most interesting about IoT, is not really on the sensors,
Mm-mm.
right? Because there are loads of sensors that you can acquire, you can buy, but the most interesting is what you can do with those sensors, the automation that you can do, right? So when you enter a room, for example, you can automate the turning on of the air conditioner,
Right.
right? And then when it's time, right? When temperature sensor senses a mainit, for example, sa labas, right? It will activate the irrigation system, right?
True.
So those kind of things, it's fun when you do the automation and think about the possibilities, right? One of the recent projects that I did is, I'm not sure if our um, Evox, right? Because I live near Taal, uh, malapit lang. And then I'm not sure about Evox if they had an API, right, to uh,
Measure seismatic.
to to get the alert level for the volcano, right? Alert level 1, 2, 3, 4,
Mm-mm.
right? So I created an API based on S3 and Lambda, right? So I process the data from the websites,
Mm.
from social media, and based on that, I publish I write an object to an S3 bucket that contains the various alert levels of the
Right.
different Philippine volcanoes, major Philippine volcanoes, right? And then I made an automation such that when uh, it reaches a certain alert level
Mm-hmm.
for Taal, right? It will then turn on and off certain lights in the house. So
Right. Para you are fully aware. Parang magbi-blink-blink, no? Parang it's a warning
that's
already.
right. So that's right. So when I say the automation that you can make, right, out of your sensors, out of that data, that's the fun part.
Right. John, let's pause a little bit on this now and ask, how did you get started on, was IT always in your blood? Was this like selected for you by your parents? Because some of our audience are like students or even senior high. How did you start your IT career?
Oh, interesting question.
Mm-mm.
So I've always been surrounded by IT people,
Mm-hmm.
right? My relatives are IT people,
Mm-hmm.
and thus I'm exposed to computers
Mm.
very early. During that time, siguro 1994, I was, no. um, grade 5.
Okay, grade 5. All
I
right.
don't know. I
Mm.
don't know what year is it.
Yeah, yeah, great. Let's stick with grade 5 now. Grade 5.
Grade 5. I was already studying WordStar, and my
Mm.
classmates were professionals from the different government agencies, right?
So
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
you enrolled yourself to a class, outside class, no?
Yes, yes. My parents did,
Mm.
but I was into it also. I was into it also. So ever since that time, um, continuous na yung exposure ko into computers, right? So I started with DOS. I
Mm.
started, nakita ko nag-unfold yung Windows 3.1, Windows
3.11, yeah.
3.11, and then nakita ko rin yung rise ng Linux, yung Slackware,
Mm.
right? And then again, I was surrounded by people who will spark interest or will feed me information, right? And
Right, right.
then one of my uncles provided me probably 50 diskettes of installer for Slackware,
Mm.
something like that. Ang dami, right? And then, so I got into programming also during that time. It was very interesting talaga to create something and then publish it sa World Wide Web. And then, um, so I really had a good break in 2010 when I had an opportunity to work for a company in Singapore that happened to have AWS,
Right,
right?
right.
So I worked for a game studio, a game company. So we used AWS. That was my first time to get exposed with the technology, and it was fantastic. It was great. Imagine you can provision resources at will,
Yeah,
right?
immediately.
And you can customize, and it was fantastic, right? And that was 2010, and ever since that time, I never looked back really.
Right.
Every single role I had something to do with AWS,
Mm-mm. Uh,
right?
John, just before we continue here, no, again for our audience, they will ask, how did you pick your course in school? Uh, some of them might wonder, like, I like computers, I like IT. How do I evaluate which school or which course is best for me? Right now, parang my IT, my MIS, my computer science, computer engineering, no? How did you evaluate naman which course is best for you?
For the course talaga, my mindset was fixed with computer science already. So there's no other choice for me. My mind is fixed on computer science.
Was this because,
And
like, maybe your like you said, your relatives also took up computer science, or um,
yes, I guess they have a great influence with
mm,
that. They have a great influence. And studying in the province, kasi Tacloban City, there's not much options during that time. Unlike now, marami ng
right,
marami ng
right.
options. My classmates during fourth year high school, they took up the different entrance examinations for UP, Ateneo, LaSalle, and those kind of school, right? But I did not. I was fixed at a certain course. I was fixed at a certain school, right? And I went for it, and I never regretted it, naman.
Right, right,
Talaga.
right. Uh-huh.
And so, it happened.
Yes, yes. Cool. Yeah, so let's go back to the, I don't know, current topic, which are you've been able to use AWS na, and you chose AWS. I guess parang AWS is because, like, your IoT, no? There's a lot of services. It's really about combining these services to make an entire solution. That's what's
Oo, totoo yan. Kasi as they say, Raf, AWS is the builder's cloud.
right. Um, Before we end, just a couple more questions, I would say. Um, Siguro, in terms of our audience, look at you. You have a very successful title, but how do you personally define success? No? What makes you successful on a personal level?
Oh, wow. So, um, really, for me, the success really is being able to help other people, right? The people around you, the mentoring that you're doing, right? And the coaching that you're doing, the more people you teach, the more fulfillment you get, right?
Right.
And the title and the role is just a subsequent effect of that.
I like that, no? It's just a after effect of the
After effect lang,
uh, uh, uh,
right?
uh, uh,
Parang it's like when you're talking about money, don't aim for the money, aim for something more um, meaningful than that, right? And having financial freedom, having a certain title, is just an effect of that.
right, right. So,
Right? So,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
so my advice talaga is to uh, be the best in whatever level you are in right now. I guess it's applicable talaga naman in different fields, in different roles or in different jobs. Whatever role you are in right now, whatever level, be the best. And then you have to exceed expectations
Exceed
talaga.
expectations. Okay,
You
okay.
have to
That's a
exceed
good advice,
expectation.
no?
Yeah, kasi if you just do what is expected of you, then you will just be like the rest of the people, right? And then another thing is you have to be ready to make some sacrifices, right? So if you want something, something's gonna give, right? You have to make certain sacrifices. Some of the sacrifices I've made are devoting time, for example, for studying, right? Devoting time for learning, and then uh, so my most favorite way of looking at this is while the rest of the people, di ba, are sleeping or resting, since ikaw you want to achieve something, right? You are willing to sacrifice something
Right, right.
in exchange for learning, in exchange for something great, right? Because you want to achieve something, right? So you can't do the same thing as the rest are doing if you want to achieve something. So you need to sacrifice. You need to exceed expectations, right? And best of all, you have to have that passion. If you want this field, then uh, make sure that you're really into it,
Right.
right? But I've seen people also, Rafa, na they've taken certain courses in during college, right? Not IT,
Right.
right? They ended up to be great in IT.
Yes, yes. Actually, we have a couple of that in
Ang
the
daming ganun.
interview, in the career talk also. A lot of people start differently and end up in the IT career also.
That's because yun ang passion nila,
Right.
siguro, right?
John, siguro just to add on this or to ask, no, we also wanna balance din na we're not sacrificing health, no, or ayaw natin sobrang sakit-sakit tayo. How do you balance, what is your advice on, making sure that you are healthy naman or you're not sacrificing either your physical health or you're not sacrificing your mental health?
Right. So in that area, Alam mo naman ano, I do a certain kind of of diet,
Right,
right?
right, no.
A
And
certain
I'm
type.
guessing this is something that you research from put into time talaga, no?
Right. Right. So during that time, I happened to have a conversation with a classmate of mine, and I got really interested. Talaga, what is he talking about this low carb high fat thing, you know?
Mm-mm.
And then uh, researching and then reading up a lot of materials about this one. Right. I eventually ended up doing that
Mm-mm.
regimen, that type of diet. Right. And then that was great. That was great. So that was maybe around 2015,
Mm-mm.
right?
Mm-mm.
So now I'm still doing those certain types of
Mm-mm.
diet ano, to keep myself healthy. But unlike before, hindi na ako masyadong strict
Right,
sa
right.
ano na yun.
Mm-mm.
So I I guess the most important thing is my advice on this is uh, it's one thing to know what you are supposed to do, and another thing to not really know it at all, right? Kasi yung iba kasi ano mga fad diet, right?
Mm-mm.
Um, you don't know if it's really backed by science, right? So for me, I have that know-how, right, about the how that um, diet works and how it affects our body,
Right.
right? And uh, kahit hindi na ako strict ngayon, right?
Mm-mm.
Every time I do an intake of a carbohydrate, for example, I know for a fact that it's not good for me,
Mm-mm.
right? It it's another thing when you don't know it,
Right, right.
and then you just eat indiscriminately,
So
right?
informed choices, in other words, no?
Informed. Yeah,
Right,
that's right. That's what
right,
I'm trying to say.
right. And
So yeah,
no, I think to our audience, now basically what we're trying to say here is that when it comes to health, also put research on it. If you're already learning about IT, you should also learn about health, no? Para you can balance that out in that sense, no? Health, sabi nga nila, health is wealth as well. So, if IT is wealth, health is also wealth, no? So, put the level of passion that you put in IT, also apply that potentially in health as well, I guess.
tama yun, Rafi. You're absolutely right. Um, just a bit of advice there. Kasi yung mga bata, no, since bata pa sila, they think they're bulletproof. They can't get into something, right? And that's what I thought when I was young. And that's okay kung bata ka, no? Pero as you get into more advanced age, right, you will feel it.
Mm-mm.
You will feel the difference talaga. And it's better that you prepare for that and you make informed choices. I wished my education talaga, my health subject taught me this kind of things, ano. Pero hindi naman tinuturo sa school to, ano. Pero I just wished na ano, meron something like this sa mga schools natin.
Right, right.
Kasi
So,
when you say something, yung advice kasi ng school natin, Raf, ano, they say balanced diet, right? Kakarampot, ganito ka laki. Or they make references to a fist, right? But it's really unclear and it's hard to follow for anyone.
right. I think in general, it really, if it's health, no, I would always say, consult your doctor, do your own research as well. Parang know your own body. I guess that's no. Parang what the school probably is teaching is more like a general, but
General. Yeah,
general.
that's
So,
right, general.
but eventually, you have to eventually know your own body. In that sense. Uh, so, audience, as we are about to close, no, thank you again, John. If you have any comments, you wanna reach out, follow up, you can always leave it in the comment section below. If you're watching in YouTube, But if you are, let's say, on Spotify or in Apple Podcast, you can just message me as the author as well. John, before we leave, before we close, no, do you have any last shout out or last, invites or anything?
Yeah, so I wanna say hi to my team members sa current company ko. I belong to a shared services team, so hi to them, and I'm really really happy and lucky to be surrounded by great and nice people in the team, right? So because of the team members talaga doon tayo nagsasucceed sa mga goals natin. So yes, I salute them. Also my former co-workers sa mga previous company ko.
Right, no?
Shout out to you. Hope you all be safe na lang wherever you are. Keep yourselves protected, be safe, and keep learning.
Right. And hopefully we can invite some of them, no? Malay mo, sila din mag-guest dito in the future as well.
So since you mentioned that, I want to say hi na lang to Diwa sa sa brother natin, Brother Diwa. Hello.
Right. All right, thank you everyone for staying with us, and goodbye, audience.
Bye. Keep safe. Thank you.
And of course, if you like our content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell.